Thanks for coming, guys. So what I want to do today is give you some tools that you can use right away in your life, in your daily life, to get more energy, to help you sleep better, and to help you be able to get more things done during the day without working extra hard. So let's get started. When I just realized I'm not recording yet, so I might start over. All right. So today I am going to teach you guys how to supercharge your life. So the goal of this talk is for you guys to come away with some really easy just tips that you can start using tonight to feel better, have more energy, and get a better sleep. Let's see. All right. Okay. So my goal is that in the end of this hour, you're going to be able to get a great night's sleep, have energy all day long without relying on caffeine, and also work less but get more done. So this is working on productivity and helping you focus so you can work less hard. All right. So just a bit about me. I am a board-certified integrated medicine specialist from Canada, and I'm also a leading publication author in a few journals back home, and I also do some yoga research, and my specialty is brain optimization and something called neuronutrition. Neuronutrition is working with using foods and natural supplements in a very specific way to affect the brain states, and affect problems that show up in the body, like low energy, sleep problems, not being able to lose weight, having problems focusing, all of these things, because the brain and the body are actually very connected. So, back we go. I'll get this Google thing right eventually. Okay, so how do I do it? Well, I use the cutting edge brain research that's coming out of places like Harvard University, who I've done some work with, University of Arizona Medical School, and some researchers in Canada that I've put together. And we've developed these neuronutrition protocols and brain training protocols to help optimize the things I've just discussed, and also help. I'm also a specialist in digestion disorders. So digestive disorders are very, very common in modern culture. And that's another area that I specialize in. That's not going to be the focus today. All right. Okay, so how do I do it? Well, I have a special toolkit. When I say I work from the brain down and body up, people often want to know what that means. So I use a two-pronged approach to help retrain the brain and get rid of problems that show up in the body by working with the brain down and working from the body up. So working from the brain down, I use a special toolkit, such as my hypnotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques that I can share with you later. My biggest tool working from the brain down is something called neurofeedback. And as you can see here, this is an example of a neurofeedback cap, which I hook people up to, and I can see a 3D image of their brain, and I can see what's going on in the brain in real time, much like an MRI, but it's actually an electrical MRI. So this is kind of game-changing technology that's just come out in the neurofeedback world. I also work with pattern awareness. Pattern awareness is basically picking out, so identifying, becoming aware of patterns, mental patterns, behavioral patterns that are actually causing us problems. So I help people figure out what they're doing wrong, so behaviors, mental patterns, and then what we can do right to fix these things from a base level. Okay, so I also work from the body up. So from the body up, I mean, I work with the cellular metabolism, and I work with this using something called neuronutrition. So it's specialized food and supplement protocols that work with the brain and affect things that go on all inside of your cells, all through the body, in something called your mitochondria. Your mitochondria, and I have a picture of these little guys later, they are organelles inside of every one of your cells. They look like a kidney bean, and they make energy. So if you are not fueling your mitochondria with the right fuel in the form of food, micro and macronutrients, which I'm going to talk about, and also thought patterns, then there can be a problem that shows up in one of the key areas of health. I also use medical yoga and something called brain breathing, which I'm going to show you guys how to do later. And I keep pressing this and I don't think it's going to work. I'll just have to click. Okay. So why does this approach work, and how is this different from what a normal doctor does? Well, you know, the last 100 years in my profession of medicine, and I'm trained as both a conventional medicine doctor and this integrated medicine specialty, you know, we've seen just a huge revolution in the way that people receive medicine. So now we have life-saving surgeries. We have emergency departments that can cure you of things that used to kill you 100 years ago. We have vaccines to prevent major illnesses that used to have a high death rate. So that's awesome. That's great. The problem is now quality of life has become a bigger issue because people are surviving all of those life-threatening illnesses that used to kill a lot of people when they were young, and they're living till they're older, but they're getting a lot of these chronic problems associated with living in the modern world. And that's where these chronic problems come in. And unfortunately, pills and surgery, which is the base of modern medicine, it just doesn't do a very good job at treating these things by itself. So drugs often don't work that well. They have lots of side effects, which become a whole nother problem. And modern drugs for chronic illness, they work on a symptom level. So for example, someone who has diabetes, as a conventional doctor, I would be giving them all these different drugs to treat different symptoms of their diabetes. But I'm not really working on the underlying brain and cellular dysfunction that is causing this illness. And this is where integrated medicine does much better. Okay, so this is what I use. This is why I use the brain down, bottom up approach for these chronic issues. And it doesn't necessarily work at that symptom level anymore. We're getting below the symptom level. We're working on correcting root dysfunction. And it works a lot better. Okay, so let's get to the stuff that you guys can start doing today. So I'm going to talk to you about sleep. So how many people have a perfect night's sleep every night? Raise your hand. Awesome. Okay, so you're a good sleeper. This is good. So what kind of things do you do to wind down in the evening?
I do yoga.
Amazing. Okay. What happens if I said you're not allowed to do yoga for the next month? What would happen to your sleep, do you think?
You're probably
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, yoga is a great tool for sleep. And the reason why is because it affects the nervous system and it affects the brain, and in turn affects the body's daily rhythms. Cool. All right. So for everybody else, and this is most people, I'm not picking on you guys, modern world and sleep kind of don't go hand in hand. There's a few reasons for that. The first one is this thing called LAN, or light at night. This is an epidemic problem all over the world because our bodies were not evolved to have all this light blasting our retinas in the back of our eyes after the sun goes down, okay? And there's a specific wavelength of light that really affects our sleep cycles and really affects the pineal gland in the brain that makes your sleep hormone. It's called melatonin. So what happens is blue wavelength of light comes into the retina. Your pineal gland goes, oh, it's like a blue sky. It's morning. Okay, I'm just going to shut off sleep hormone production right now, and I'm not even going to bother with it. Okay, this is a problem. So guess what? Devices emit blue wavelength of light? Yes, iPhones and Androids and computer screens and TVs. And even digital clocks that you guys may have in your bedroom that flash at you all night. And some people say, well, I have my eyes closed. What's the big deal, right? But the problem is that your eyelids close, but that light still comes through to your retina and your brain is still perceiving that light. So we have to deal with this light at night issue before anything else. Before I start throwing supplements at you and telling you all these complex things, we've got to start with the light at night problem. All right. Okay, so we've already talked about this. Energy-saving light bulbs are also a source of light at night. So something you can do this week, guys, is go home, look at the lights in your bedroom. If they are really bright flashing bulbs like the ones we have in the office here, you want to change them to the old-fashioned light bulbs, the incandescent ones. So you know the really clear light bulb with the little filament in the center? Those are incandescent, and they actually do not affect your sleep in the same way. You can also get special lights. You can get lights that have filters over top of them to block that specific wavelength of light. In our house back home in Vancouver, we have some of those. But the major thing is just winding down your lights at night and really avoiding computer screens before you go to bed. So, okay, how do we deal with this light at night problem? How do we increase your melatonin so you can get to sleep? Well, no screens, ideally 2 hours before bed. I mean, and hey, I'm not perfect with this either. I had this call with a client back in Vancouver at 1 o'clock in the morning last night. I was up to 1 o'clock on my computer, but I have a special filter on my computer and an app that I can tell you guys about. Actually, it's called F-Lux. It's on the screen here. And it's not perfect. I mean, this doesn't mean that you get to be up on your computers all night, but it certainly makes a bit of a difference. So shutting off screens, and a lot of people say, what am I going to do in the evening? I can't watch TV. I mean, I can't be on my phone. Well, there's music, there's hanging out with friends, there's lots of things you can do. But it's a big lifestyle change, I'm not going to lie. Okay. So other ways you can increase melatonin. So let's say you have to be on the computer late at night once in a while. There's something called Shat Karma, which is actually quite an ancient practice. Yogis in India figured this stuff out like thousands of years ago. And now modern science is saying, hey, we know why that works. So this practice is when you pick a candle, you light it, you want the flame to be about this big, you want it to be about an arm's length away from your face. You stare at it in a pretty specific way for about 10 minutes. It can increase the melatonin because the candle flame has a different wavelength of light. It's in the red-orange spectrum. And because we evolved as cavemen to have fires at night to protect us from invaders coming into the camp, our brains can actually handle that kind of light, and it might actually increase melatonin based on some research studies recently. So one other practice, you can ask me about that later if you want the details on how to do that at home. Melatonin, you can buy it in a supplement. I usually tell people to stick with 1 to 3 milligrams 30 minutes before they go to sleep. And the good thing about if you get it right and you're getting that melatonin peak as you should when you fall asleep, in the morning, your brain turns all that extra melatonin into serotonin, which is your happy hormone. So if you guys are staying up late and you're on screens and you're finding that you're having trouble waking up, or you're not feeling very happy or very motivated in the morning, this is all part of the same issue. This is all part of the circadian rhythms in the body that are affected by light and dark. And there we go. Okay, so sometimes you need a little bit more help. Some people have chronic sleep issues, and a lot of people who come to see me have already done the sleep hygiene stuff that I just talked about. They're already off their screens, they're already taking some melatonin, and it's still not really cutting it. And that's quite common because a lot of times our nervous systems have been ramped up so chronically that there's some brain changes that are going on that we really need to hit with something a little bit more powerful. In those scenarios, I actually use some other sleep supplements that are natural. They're non-addictive, which is very important because a lot of the sleep, especially in Thailand, I've noticed you can get Ativan and Xanax and these things over the counter. And unfortunately, these things rob you of those deeper stages of sleep, and they're quite habit-forming and addictive for the brain. So we want to, try to avoid those. Instead, I use ones with certain key ingredients, and I'm going to show you. This is my favorite one. A lot of times when I'm working with someone, I will tailor the formula to them. But this is one you can actually buy online. It's created by a very famous doctor in the US. He's always on Oprah talking about this stuff, and he's, I know him quite well, and he's actually a mentor of mine, and it's called the Revitalizing Sleep Formula. Okay, but it really is quite a good product, and as you can see, it has quite a few ingredients. The best way to tackle a sleep issue from a natural perspective is not to hit it with one specific herb and ramp up the dose. That usually doesn't work, and it results in you feeling tired in the morning. You have to combine a bunch of stuff at the right doses. Again, ask me about this later if you want the link to where you can get that online. Yes?
Can we get a print off of that?
Absolutely. I can just send you the link to it's Dr. Tiedenbaum, and I'll send you the link to his website. Yeah. And I'll try to figure out how we can get it to you here without charging a fortune with Thai import fees. Okay. Other key sleep formulas to look for, and again, I had a really hard time finding these in Thailand, so you probably have to import these. These are some other ingredients that I like to use with people in combination. Again, ask me later about the details if you want. Okay, other causes of poor sleep besides the light at night is your brain being in the wrong state. And this is what I was just referring to with people who have already tried getting off of the screens, they've already tried the sleep hygiene stuff. A lot of times when I put on a neurofeedback cap and I look at their brain in 3D, they have a few different issues going on. Their brain is stuck in beta in certain brain areas. They might have something called limbic hijack or amygdala hijack, and these are all a result of basically living in the modern world, and some people are more susceptible to those daily mental threats actually affecting the brain's neural circuitry and causing a problem being able to switch from that, okay, I'm at work now, I'm focused, things are going on, I have to be on the ball, to really winding down, shutting off those thoughts, shutting off the thought cycle so you can fall asleep. Okay, so that's a big one as well that we work with neurofeedback. I won't go through all of these, but there's lots of other reasons that I test people for when it comes to why they're not sleeping. Oh, here we go. Okay, quick note, alcohol and caffeine. Everyone's going, duh, I know, I can't drink coffee and I shouldn't drink before I go to bed. Okay, the thing is, I'm gonna introduce a new layer. The reason why this affects you so much is if you are 30% of the population who is what's called a slow metabolizer of caffeine, unfortunately, caffeine that you're drinking may be bound in your brain to these little proteins irreversibly, meaning once it's locked on, it doesn't let go until your brain dissolves the whole protein, and that takes up to 12 hours in some people. So if you are finding that you're drinking coffee during the day and you have a chronic sleep issue, I had one client and she swore up and down that I only have one coffee and I have it before noon, and I said, can we just try, because we had tried a lot of different things with her and she was improving, but there was still some sleep issues, and lo and behold, she's one of these people that's a slow metabolizer. Some people ask, how can I find out if that's me? Well, there's a really expensive test that costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars that I can do, but it's just a waste of money. Just quit coffee for a week and see what happens to you. Cheaper. And it works. Alcohol. Okay, alcohol is a really tricky one. This one is so tricky because who likes a glass of wine to unwind in the evening, right? I mean, this is like a cultural thing. Most people go home and they want to have a glass of wine, it relaxes you, you feel nice, and people think it helps them prepare for sleep. The problem is that the initial stages of alcohol in the brain, it's a depressant, but then it starts to activate some areas of the brain where it shouldn't be activated before you go to bed, and it actually robs you during that whole night of sleep cycle of two of the most important stages of sleep, the REM sleep and the stage 4 sleep. So it's actually not doing what you think it's doing for your sleep, and in fact it's actually preventing you from getting that restorative sleep. And that's why even if you have a big night out drinking or even a few drinks, even if you get that 8 hours of sleep, you probably wake up in the morning feeling not so great. And it's because even though you might have slept, you didn't get the same type of sleep, and the brain doesn't recover in the same way. All right. That's my spiel about alcohol and caffeine. Okay, so what are the things you can do right now to start sleeping better? Number one is we gotta work on shutting off the screens at least an hour before bed, ideally 2. And this takes time, it's not gonna happen overnight. Getting an eye mask and blackout curtains. Eye mask, blackout curtains prevents that blue wavelength of light from hitting the retina even when your eyelids are closed. So it's really important, because if you're not sleeping in a dark room, then you're gonna have a problem. Avoiding caffeine after 1 p.m. just for a trial period. See if you're one of those people who's really sensitive. Ideally in bed by 10:30. Okay, everyone's cringing, I know, it's early. The thing is unfortunately us humans, we're designed to be up during the day and then go to bed at night. So what happens is your sleep hormone, it peaks at a very specific time, and it peaks at midnight. The problem is, in most people, there's some people who peak earlier, some people who peak later. So the problem is, if you're not winding yourself down by like 10:30, your brain starts to get the wrong message. It's like, oh, okay, it's not time for sleep. I'm just not gonna worry about that melatonin, that's fine. I'm just gonna keep doing my thing and keep doing daytime mode. Okay, so you're missing your peak of your melatonin. You miss that peak, you feel groggy in the morning, you feel like you have brain fog, and then guess what you have to reach for? You have to reach for that huge bucket of coffee to get you going. So it's this vicious cycle. All right, and there's also a way that you can induce an alpha brain state in the evening, and there's a recording that I can send each of you if you would like afterwards. Just ask Nick to get you started with that. That'll help you sleep. Okay, energy. So this is a really common problem, especially in those of us who have a sitting job. even me, I'm a doctor, I'm moving around a lot, but it's still pretty sedentary compared to a farmer out in the field. So how many people find that mid-afternoon they're feeling not so sharp or feeling a bit sleepy? A few of us, yeah. It's really common. It's really, really common because of the things we eat for lunch. It's okay, I won't pick on you, it's okay. So the problem is that we eat things at lunch that predispose us to having this slump. And you know, the other thing is there's things that we could do during the day to make this better, because what happens is we have the afternoon slump and then you have to get through your day and then you reach for the caffeine and then you can't sleep. So again, vicious cycle, we gotta break the cycle. Okay, if you're not fueling your mitochondria, you know, the little kidney bean shaped things in your cells that make all the energy, if you're not giving them the best fuel, you're gonna have this energy slumping problem constantly. So if you can activate the central nervous system in the morning, number one, and I'm going to teach you how to do that in about 5 minutes, and number two, you can fuel your mitochondria with the right foods, and I'm going to teach you how to do that, then you can start avoiding this afternoon crash that is necessitating a trip to the coffee stand that I saw on the way in here. Okay. All right. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so how are you going to eat for energy to avoid this slump? Well, again, mitochondria, that's this guy right here. It looks pretty cool. And you have to feed it with the right stuff. You have to feed it with the right macronutrients and the right micronutrients. So you're probably saying, yeah, but I've been eating this way my whole life and I'm still alive. Right, so you're not going to die, right? You're probably not even going to notice these low energy slumps because you're very used to it. The brain gets used to something and then it turns off the filter that says I should pay attention to this. So if you start making these changes, you're going to feel pretty energized. You might feel like, you know, you've had 2 coffees and you haven't had any. Okay. So macronutrients, these are the things you need to avoid. And macronutrients, by the way, I should say what those are first. So macronutrients are basically the 5 big food groups. So you have your dairy, you have your grains, you have your protein, you have your fruits and vegetables. Those are the macronutrients that make up our big food groups. So what you want to do is you want to eat what's called slow burner foods, not these quick spiking sugar foods. And an example of the bad ones are refined carbohydrates. Laura, we were talking the other day about the 5 whites. Okay, so white flour, white bread, white rice is a big one here in Thailand, right? Because you eat out on the corner shops, you know, in the lunchtime, and they don't have brown rice. So it can be quite challenging. Cookies, crackers, everything you see in the 7-Eleven, most of that stuff is a no-no for fueling your mitochondria with the kind of fuel that you want to avoid this energy problem. Okay, so what do you want to do? You want to do the whole grains, the brown rices, the fruits and vegetables, everything whole grain, everything brown as much as possible. So let's talk about how to make this practical. So here are some samples of some high energy lunches that you could have here in Thailand. So most people in Thailand do have a rice cooker, and I know Alex has one. He taught me how to use it recently. It was a revolution to me. It's so much easier than boiling it. So you put your rice in the rice cooker in the evening, and then in the morning you have brown rice. You just put it in a little container, you bring it with you to work, and then if you eat out on the street, you just dump your brown rice over top. So it's a bit of extra effort, but at least you're not having to prepare a whole meal. And you can just put it in the fridge, of course, for a few days, away you go. One more thing I'm going to mention with the Thai food around here, and I think, where's Lucy? We were talking about this, the MSG. Yeah, so some people, MSG is called monosodium glutamate. It's a flavor additive that is in a lot of Asian cooking because it makes people want to go back to that restaurant because it actually causes addictive pathways in the brain, unfortunately. So it tastes really good. Nick's favorite Thai place around here probably has a lot of MSG in it because he's like, oh, I really want to go back to that one place. They probably put tons of MSG in their food. So the problem with this molecule is for some people who are sensitive, it can actually poison your mitochondria. Okay, so if you're eating this stuff every day at lunch and you're feeling really afternoon energy slumpy, you could be a person who is very sensitive to MSG. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. You can also just make a salad at home the night before. Boil a few eggs, hard-boiled eggs, salad, a bit of fish, a bit of chicken. Bring that to work with you. So it is more effort, but it's worth doing a trial and seeing what the difference is in the way you feel. Okay, so we went shopping. We went to the villa, we cheated, we went to the fancy grocery store, but I'm gonna tell you what to find at Big C too. So these are some examples of some good things. This is example of some bread that you can find, and I think they have it at Big C as well. It's rye bread. It's the one that comes in the condensed package, the European bread style. This is a healthy grain. Nuts and seeds, very healthy source of protein. You want to make sure the nuts and seeds are not heavily salted and oiled. Like the ones that you get at 7-Eleven are not as good, but if you have to reach for something at 7-Eleven, always choose the nuts. The almonds are the best bet. And those are some black rice crackers. Again, going for the whole grains. So again, these are some healthy crackers. The rye vita you can find everywhere. And you just put a little bit of that with some hummus, which is in the corner here, and away you go, you have a snack. That's not gonna put you into energy crisis mode. Okay, so we've talked about the macronutrients. There's also something called micronutrients. This is actually a bigger problem, especially where I come from in North America, because the food that we eat now is very unlike what our grandparents ate, which I'll get to in a second. So micronutrients are things like methylation factors. They're things like antioxidants, D-ribose, coenzyme Q10, alpha-lipoic acid, acetyl L-carnitine in the B vitamins. Don't worry, these are big words, don't worry about it. These are things I have to worry about, not you. But the bottom line is your mitochondria, it needs these things to make energy. It's like an energy, it's kind of like an energy conveyor belt. So in the conveyor belt, all of the different screws and the gears that make up the conveyor belt, it needs this stuff to work, okay? And this stuff should come from our food. It should all come from our food in the perfect world. The problem is that we don't eat all organic. We eat on the go in the modern world. And a lot of our soil, in Thailand included, because I've done a little bit of research before this talk, is depleted of a lot of key nutrients. A lot of the trace minerals and vitamins that we need, it doesn't have in the soil anymore. And then the way that the produce is picked, by the time it gets to the grocery store, it's lost between 60 to 90% of vitamin C, other trace minerals. So you really sometimes got to supplement with this stuff if you're having a problem with energy. Okay, so energy supplements. So the best thing to remember from this talk is don't go out and buy caffeine pills. Please, 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 because that's the most common energy supplement that I see in the stores here is the caffeine pills and the stimulants, you know, and the Red Bull and the energy drinks. The problem is it's going to poison your mitochondria even more, and it's not the kind of energy that we need. So I use a variety of supplements. I mean, the easiest thing is to start juicing greens at home and to get a greens powder. Again, ask me after the talk for details and I'll give you some of my favorites, because you know, a lot of the supplements that are sold in Thailand, they have a lot of stimulants, so you want to avoid those. And there we go. Perfect. Okay, last topic. How are you guys all doing, by the way? You guys good? Okay, energy levels okay? I know you guys just had pizza and beer. It is Friday, so we're almost done. And then we're gonna do something to wake us up again, so you can go and enjoy your Friday night. Okay, concentration and focus. Last thing I want to talk about. Everyone can concentrate and focus better. I can concentrate and focus better. When I don't do these things that I talk about, when I get off, you know, my game, then mine suffers too. So it really does work. So there's 5 main things that affect your ability to concentrate and to focus, and they all start with the brain. The first one is the brain state. So your brain has all these different wavelengths at different parts of the brain, and if you're having the wrong kind of brain state at a particular location in the brain, it can affect your ability to concentrate and to focus. So, you know, I have a lot of people who come to me with problems with focusing or ADHD, and they're trying really hard to focus and to concentrate, but it's just not happening. So, you know, it's not that they don't have the willpower. And so we have to sometimes work with the brain states. I'm also going to talk about how you sleep, how you eat, how we work, and also how we move our bodies and what you can start doing to help all these things. Okay, so I'm not going to touch on this too much, but this is one of the main things that I do, so I just want to touch on it a little bit at least. These are some of the different problems in the brain, the different brain states that can be markers of trouble for focus and concentration. When I see this on a brain map, a live brain map of somebody, I start to think, okay, there's an issue here with focus and concentration. And all of these patterns, they can show up with the electrical MRI 3D brain imaging that I use. And the good thing is that you can change this stuff. So yes, you can change it with neurofeedback, and yes, it's the fastest way to do it, but you can also change it by changing what you eat, change the way you move your body, and changing some daily habits. And that's what I'm going to give you guys today. So you don't need anything fancy to start doing this. And there's been really cool studies looking at MRI imaging in people who have followed some of these advice tips I'm going to give you, and their brains change in about 8 weeks. So it's very cool. Okay, so sleep also affects concentration. We know this already. I've already gone over this. We won't belabor it. Eating for concentration, again, very similar for eating for energy. You have to avoid those fast burner fuels. Go for the slow burner, the whole grains, the brown stuff, the nuts and the seeds, and the lean meats. However, there's something, and the MSG. MSG can really affect concentration in some people as well. Some people are very sensitive to MSG. The other thing that is very helpful for concentration and focus is the right blend of omega-3s. We don't get enough omega-3s in our diet. We should have a ratio of 4:1 omega-3 to omega-6. The ratio in the modern world is about 60:1. So that's a problem for our brains, because all of the brain circuits, one brain cell over here talks to this brain cell over here, and they have a wire. So just like if you have an exposed wire without the covering, it doesn't transmit the information very well. Your brain is the same. It's this thing called a myelin sheath. It's like this fatty layer, and it covers all your nerves that connect your brain cells so they can talk to each other. So this sheath, if it's not being supported, you don't have the building blocks to make this covering, then your brain cells can't talk to each other in the same way. And that's what omega-3s do. And not all omega-3 supplements are created equal. There's some that are far better than others for concentration. Something called DHA is the key ingredient for focus and concentration that makes that sheath. And again, details about this stuff, please ask me questions or find me after. Cerebrum is the name of the brand name of a supplement I really like for this. I use it in all my patients who suffer with attentional issues, and they do really well with it. All right, next thing is how we work affects our focus and concentration. So if we go to work and we just sit all day at our desks, we're gonna feel pretty crummy at the end of the day. Our bodies are meant to move. If you don't move, you're not clearing the lymphatic system, the stuff that brings all the junk out of your cells, all the mitochondria, they're making all this energy. Well, just like when you make energy at a hydroelectric plant, when your cells make energy, they have a waste. They have to get rid of that waste. So if you're not getting rid of the waste, you're just sitting all day, you're not moving around, your concentration and your focus will definitely suffer. So a lot of big companies now, like Toyota, TED Talks. I don't know if you guys heard of TED Talks over here? No? Yeah, some people? Okay. They have this mandatory thing in some of their offices where they make people get up and do exercise. In Toyota, they do it over a loudspeaker. I've had friends who work there, and it's very funny. So you go into work and it comes over a loudspeaker, everyone gets up out of their desk and does exercises, kind of like yoga. They do it in the morning and they do it after lunch, because they found that not only does it increase productivity, which companies love, right? But it also makes people happier. They miss less days of work, and it makes them more creative. So this is why this is super key. So I'm gonna teach you how to do some really easy, simple, and quick office exercises so you guys can all become one of these enlightened companies. And you're already enlightened because you have Alex as your CEO. So, and, oh no, sorry, I was gonna talk about this too. Okay, other ways to improve your concentration at work is arranging your day if possible. So you're doing the really nitty-picky analytic tasks in the morning, and you're doing more creative work and more networking stuff and people stuff in the afternoon. The reason why, again, is because our brain runs on this 24-hour clock, and the brain is better at doing certain things at certain times in that 24-hour clock. So we're actually better in a brain state to do analytics in the morning and to do creative and social stuff in the afternoons. So if you can, if it's possible, that's a good way to arrange your day, ideally. And the other thing is just taking mini meals. So snacking throughout the day with those nuts and seeds and those slow burner fuels, rather than eating a huge lunch and then having nothing till dinner. And then you're gonna have that problem with energy slumping, as well as the brain fog that usually sets at around 3 o'clock that has everyone rushing for the coffee stand. All right. So this is relating to my next slide, which is how you move. So I just touched on this. So I'm going to teach you guys how to activate your central nervous system in the morning. So the alarm goes off, and what do? Okay, well, you're in a hurry, you're going to work, you're trying to make breakfast. So before all that stuff happens from now on, you're going to get beside your bed, and you're going to do 2 to 5 minutes of what's called the Flying Goose. This is like my secret weapon. It's pretty awesome. You guys are going to learn it in about 2 minutes. I'm going to build up to it here, and I'm going to show you Nick doing it. Oh, where did it go? Hold on. Here we go. Okay, so Nick's going to demonstrate what this looks like, and I'm going to explain it, and then we're going to do it together. So you want to inhale and take a really deep breath and bring your arms all the way up to the top, press them together, and then squat down, and all the air, you really want to push all the air out of your lungs. If you can't squat down all the way because you have knee problems, don't worry about it. Just go halfway. So what you're doing here is you're using all of your muscle pumps in the body to pump all that stale lymphatic fluid from sleeping. You've been sleeping all night, things are getting stale in there. So you're oxygenating, you're getting the lymphatic fluid going, and you're also waking up your brain. You're like, okay, brain, it's time to do stuff. Central nervous system, please wake up. And you'll feel pretty awesome after you do this a few times. So, okay, we're gonna do it. And I have this is gonna be interesting. I have heels and a dress on, but that's okay. Okay, so everyone, please stand with me. Okay, so we might have to move chairs out of the way, and you know, this is gonna be cozy, so you guys all know each other. Don't worry if you... Yeah, we're gonna start dancing afterwards. I like this. So, if you can't go down all the way because of what you're wearing, don't worry about it. I just want you to get the idea. The main thing is you want to, when you're having your arms going up, 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 you want to be taking a big breath in and filling your lungs, filling until you can't feel them anymore, and always breathing through your nose. And then you can exhale through your mouth if you want, and then come all the way down into a squat. And then inhale up. And then all the way down, crossing your arms over into a squat, and then coming all the way up. Coming all the way down. How's that pizza feeling, guys? Okay, I won't torture you anymore. Is there any questions? Is there any questions? Does anyone have any questions about that? Is that painful for anybody? Because I can give some modifications if anyone would like any. Everyone good? Is there questions? No? Good? Okay. So everyone can do this. You don't need a lot of space, right? I mean, oh, question, yes.
Because I need to get snack for everybody every week, so I know what is coming.
Okay, snacks for here? For you mean like instead of pizza?
No. Instead with food like
It's okay. Yes, I can give you some meal planning things. We'll sit down if you want, and we'll do a plan. Yes, absolutely. Okay, yeah, we'll get you guys all snacked up in the office. Okay, so that's what I want you guys to start your day with. 10 of these, and you really feel amazing after. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to teach you, hold on a second, where do I go here? Aha. Okay, so sometimes you might have a dress on, or it might be after lunch, and maybe you can't, maybe you're off at a meeting and you can't just like whip out the Flying Goose in front of all of your colleagues that you maybe don't know. If you're like, let's say if Alex goes to Google, I'm sure Alex isn't going to walk into Google and start doing the Flying Goose. So this is well, you could though, and they would be okay with it because they've been to this talk. However, there's a modified version, and it's actually from our teacher who studied in India for over 50 years. And he calls it saluting the 5 elements. It sounds a bit woo-woo. It doesn't really matter what it's called though, it really works. And the reason it works is because you're inflating your lungs again, and you can do this anywhere and you don't have to squat down. So I'm gonna have Nick demonstrate one more time. And in this exercise, I'm using a special kind of breathing. This is a type of brain breathing. I told you I was going to teach you brain breathing. This is one of the ones I teach people. It's called Viloma. Again, yogis had this figured out like thousands of years ago. Now we know why it works with modern science. Viloma means that you sip the breath in 3 different stages, and then you exhale all at once. So you're like, okay, this is an energizing breath. It actually activates your sympathetic nervous system. It wakes you up. So this is awesome. Sometimes people feel a bit high, like on caffeine, almost high after they do this, although they haven't had any coffee. So this is great, but don't do this in the evening because sometimes it can really stimulate people. So this is great for at work or during the day. Okay, so Nick's gonna do it and then we're gonna do it. If I can get it to play. Okay, there we go. So you wanna raise and then open the arms and then all the way up and then back down into the Thai greeting, which I love. Inhale, 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 and then exhale down. Okay, so, and these demonstrations on here are for the people who are going to be watching this afterwards on YouTube, who are not going to be able to see me doing it. Okay, so let's do it all together. So this time we're going to do it with the breathing. So here we go. We're going to and then
no pause.
Okay, so that's it. So again, if you have any questions, please, now is the time to ask about this breathing exercise. And then I'm going to wrap up and ask for general questions. Everyone okay with that one? And if you think of something after, I'll be milling about for a few minutes, so you can always ask me. Okay. So, this is almost the end. So I'm just going to leave you guys with the most important points from this talk, because I want you to go home and start doing this stuff. It's great to have information, but it's even better to do something that's actionable, because I could teach you a million things, but unless it's easy and you go home and you actually do it, it's not doing you any good. So tonight, I want you to try to shut off all screens 2 hours before bed, at least an hour, but 2 if you can. Next week, I'm gonna challenge you all 5 days next week of the work week to try not having any caffeine after 1 p.m. if you have problems with your sleep. So unless you're sleeping perfectly, if you're perfect sleeper over here, okay, this doesn't apply to you. But everybody else, if you're having any sleep issues, I want you to give it a try having no caffeine, and that includes tea as well, and dark chocolate after 1 p.m. Avoiding the whites. So Laura and I were talking about the 5 whites the other day: the white flour, the white bread, the crackers, the cookies, the white rice. Those are the whites. Sugar. Yeah. Okay, snack on nuts. When in doubt, snack on nuts. It's just that simple. Okay, reach for nuts when you're hungry. I constantly I'm like a little squirrel. I always have nuts hiding away somewhere. Try to bring the brown rice for lunch, or eat the brown stuff as much as you can at lunch. And again, maybe you can do one challenge 1 week that you cut out caffeine after 1 p.m. And then the next week, you can take this one step at a time, right? And then the next week, you try your one thing that week being only eating the brown stuff at lunch. So don't try to do everything at once, because it'll just be overwhelming and it'll create more stress, and that's bad for you too. So one thing at a time. You pick the one thing out of here and you want to start with that. Okay, number 6, this is something that I want everyone to try though, because this one is super easy, so there's no excuse. Start your day with the Flying Goose. So your alarm goes off, you're beside your bed, you know, it doesn't take much space, you don't even need a yoga mat, you're doing your Flying Goose. You're just, you know, you're doing your thing. And then you'll just be so much happier starting your day. And for a bonus, and if you want details, ask me and I can send you some recipes for this, is green juicing. So you have to buy a juicer for this, but if you can buy a juicer, you just put organic green vegetables and some beets and a bit of fruit to sweeten it into a juicer, and that's what you start your day with. And that gives you all of those micronutrients that your mitochondria powerhouses need. And Alex is definitely a devotee of the green juicing now. We've converted him. And Scott too, right?
Scott too.
Yeah.
Juices every day.
Yeah. I got Scott juicing a long time ago. Okay. And thank you guys so much. You've been a great audience, and I know it's Friday and it's the end of your work week, so I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Can I ask
Yes.
Where does potatoes fall in? Do they fall into the 5-1?
It's a very good question. So potatoes, are you talking about white potatoes or sweet potatoes?
Any potato.
Okay. White potatoes are more of a slow burner fuel than, say, white bread or white rice. And if you combine it right and you're not using them as your main source of fuel, then they're absolutely fine. Sweet potatoes and yams and the pumpkin, like the root vegetables, have a lot of really good nutrients. So if you can have those versus the white potatoes, those are definitely better. And they're what's called a full sweet. So this is a whole nother topic, guys, but there's something called full sweet versus empty sweet. So empty sweet are things like, Laura, you're saying sugar. So candy, sugar, chocolate bars, those are empty sweet, meaning they're empty of calories, they're empty of those slow burner carbohydrates, and then there's things like full sweets. Full sweets are actually better. Those are things like coconut milk and the root vegetables or things like full sweets. Pumpkin is another full sweet. So those are not considered unhealthy, but they just have to be balanced. And the best way to avoid the energy crash with the full sweets is to combine it with a protein. So if you have a pumpkin soup and you throw in some chicken, it's going to create a binding, and it's going to help the blood sugar levels kind of even out. So if you're having one of those full sweets, just combine it with a protein. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yes.
So if you have an energy crash, can you have a little nap?
Yes. Oh, that's my favorite topic that I didn't discuss. There's so many fun topics. Okay, so napping is a science. There's a lot of research on napping, and the best time, based on all the studies, to nap is between 2 and 4 p.m. If you've had 8 hours of sleep or more, you want to nap for about 20 minutes. If you've had less than that, if you're sleep deprived from the night before, you can actually nap for an hour. And absolutely, it improves brain function, it improves oxygen in certain parts of the brain. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Alex, they're all going to nap. Yeah. A nap room right here.
Right next to your, what do you call it? The servers. I'm not very tech savvy. I'm like, what's that big room? It's called, yeah, servers. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Comments? Concerns?
You have Facebook?
Yes, I have Facebook. I have a page. You can leave comments on it. I'll try to respond. Absolutely. I have a Facebook page, a YouTube channel, website, a blog with lots of good tips on it. So it's a good resource. All those things are good resources for you guys. Yep.
Google Plus page as well.
Oh yeah, sorry. And well, hey, this is our first Google presentation. I have to learn not to just keep clicking on the same one that I always do. I'm very programmed to use Keynote, but I'm gonna fix that. Yeah.
I've got another comment, sorry.
Yes, no, of course, please.
So we're talking about blackout curtains,
Yes.
which are quite important if you live far away from the equator, but we're pretty much on the equator, so here
Yes.
you get pretty much regular 11 hours of darkness every night.
Yes.
So you don't really need dark curtains.
Well, you don't if you're going to bed within an 8-hour window of getting 8 hours of that darkness. But a lot of people, depending on their lifestyle, their jobs, they are not actually going to bed in time to meet an 8-hour window where it's dark. So you're absolutely right. If you don't need them, if you were like a sleep ninja and you're already going to bed when it's getting dark and you have 8 hours of darkness before you're waking up, don't worry about them. Yeah.
What about
Yes, iMask. I use it myself. The only thing about darkness, one thing I'll add though, you're absolutely right, Lucy, if you're in the country, but, oh sorry, you're Lucy. Elsie, you're right, you're absolutely right if you're in the country, but the problem is in the city, is there's so many lights at night everywhere. It's not just like your house and that's it, when you turn on the lights there's no light. There's actually light in the sky from all the lights of the city. So even if you're still not having any lights in your home, you're still going to get that light. And unfortunately, your retina is extremely sensitive to light. It's how we were made, unfortunately. So yes, I use an eye mask myself, and it does make a difference. Absolutely, in the city. All right, guys. Thank you. Enjoy your weekends.
Thank you very much, Dr. Danny. Francis has actually gotten you a small token of appreciation.
Oh.
Say thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Francis, thank you. That's so lovely. Wow, those are beautiful. Whoa. Thank you.
So thank you guys. I suggest you follow Danny on YouTube. I hope Nick will be putting this video on YouTube, and maybe we'll add some subtitles for Kanita and that as well, so you can understand the full talk.
Yes. That would be awesome. I'd like to do that. We'll talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah, Nick will be translating.